Yeah, we're live. We're ready to rock and roll with episode 62 of Who Gives a Dram. How's everybody doing this week? My name's Connor, and I am the host of Who Gives a Dram. I hope everyone had a great week. I've got some good news. I've got some bad news. I've got some news. Got a lot of things to react to this week. Some breaking news that I just read right before I started recording the podcast, so that's going to be very interesting. But first things first, you guys. I just want to say the best way to support the show. Make sure you're subscribed on all platforms. That really helps us out. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and leave a rating and review on iTunes. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by The Grapevine Media, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. So let's get right into it. I got this is going to be, I think, a little bit shorter of a podcast today, probably because I got some stuff I got to do. So still got to get the recording in, though, you guys. I've been thinking about this recording all day. We are doing Covid Chronicles Part 2. And although I can finally smell and taste whiskey again, I feel like I got to give my palate time to like readjust to whiskey because I haven't really drank it consistently in it feels like a few weeks now. But I poured some Weller 107 to celebrate our most recent review. Maybe not. Maybe I'm stupid. But poured some 107 to celebrate the first week, full week, being able to taste and smell whiskey again. But it doesn't. I feel like I gotta give it time to adjust. Give my palate time a little bit of time to adjust. But yeah, you guys, we're here. We're ready to go. COVID Chronicles Part 2. Had a lot of fun recording COVID Chronicles Part 1 last week. That was a blast, honestly. And yes, I know if you're watching the YouTube video or if you just follow me on Instagram, my hair is getting long. And there's a few reasons behind that. The main reason is I've had COVID, or I've been around people with COVID for a few weeks, and I've had multiple haircuts scheduled, but I ended up canceling them each time. I felt like it was the right thing to do. And regardless, I'm growing out my hair because it's cold outside. That's why I got the beard going. I usually go grizzly in the wintertime. And also, I think I look handsome as shit with long hair. That's just how it is. I think I look good with long hair, so I'm growing it out. I'm going for the what the hell's his name from The Gentleman? Charlie Hunnam look from The Gentleman. If I have time to edit this video, I'll put his picture like right here, but I doubt that'll happen. So it's just gonna be a image of me pointing up to nothing. If you're watching the YouTube podcast. So what's going on this week? I was super pumped when I found when I could finally taste and smell again, and it was kind of like it was really yesterday that it started to come back, meaning Monday. So 2 days ago when this podcast is released, and I noticed it because I walked into my parents' house last night to watch Georgia versus Alabama, and I could smell the house. And I think I had noticed it throughout the day because my coffee tasted normal and my lunch tasted normal, but I don't think about it. Like, you don't think about how stuff tastes and smells because you're not used to not having it. So I kind of just chalked it up to being normal. And then I walked into my parents' house like, wow, I can smell this. And then we had beef stew for dinner and I could taste it, and it was fantastic. I'm so happy to have it back. But I spent the week. Let me tell you guys how I spent the week, all right? So let me just say this. COVID tests are the new Blantons. Allow me to explain. You cannot find a COVID test anywhere. And I'm not just talking about an at-home test. I'm talking about scheduling a test to see if you have COVID. Now, we all have our opinions on the testing and the vaccination and yada, yada, yada. Not going to get into that. But all I'm saying is this. If you know there are places and businesses and people that require you to show a negative test if you want to either enter their building or go to their event or blah, 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 you would think that there would be an adequate number of tests available for everybody and anybody that needs it. I couldn't go back to work until I showed a negative test. I felt fine. I knew I was negative for a very long time. I couldn't find a test to prove it though. So last week, I literally had to fight to find an at-home COVID test because there's nowhere to schedule a test. And I ended up finding one at a random gas station in 2 towns over from me, and they were charging $30 a pop. It's just like Blanton's, dude. It's just like Blanton's. You can never find Blanton's anywhere, and when you do find it, most of the time they're charging $200 a pop. At-home COVID tests are the new Blantons. And it really got me angry that I had to drop $60 on 2 COVID tests. Because my most recent at-home COVID test, my beautiful, beautiful godmother, Linda, was generous enough to give me one because she got a shipment in from Amazon, and they cost her $10. So these people who are selling at-home COVID tests are basically selling Blantons at this point. So that is just so annoying to me that, it's like I have to show a negative test to go back to work. Don't get me wrong, I love working from home, but I can only work from home for a day or two because when I get to my office and I got my big desk and all my monitors, it's so much easier to work than when just on a little computer that's not even a Mac. It's like a Dell. Not Adele like the singer. It's a Dell computer. It's a bad joke. So I wanted to get that off my chest because that's just so annoying, right? I want to go back to work and I need a negative test, yet I can't find a test freaking anywhere. So that was I literally felt like I was whiskey hunting. I'm going to walk in here. Y'all got Blantons in the back? Another week, no reviewing whiskey. And the reason I'm not reviewing whiskey this week is because there are at least 3 or 4 people that live and die by the Who Gives a Dram stamp rating. I need to be on my game if I'm going to give a whiskey an official review. And I hold myself honorable to that. So if I'm not at 100%, even though I feel at 100%, if I'm not actually at 100%, I am not going to rate a whiskey. That's just it. We've done 107. It's one of my favorites, as y'all know. It's one of my favorites. And that's just what we're going to do. We're going to sip on it today, and we got a few subjects I got to talk about. So the first real subject I want to talk about this week, you guys, is breaking freaking news that I just read right before I got onto this, right before I pressed record. Breaking news. I don't even have it on my show notes. I've been writing show notes because I forget what I want to talk about half the time. Official. When is it? I got to, hold on a second. I got to go on and make sure I get the correct date. What is that? Let's make sure I got the correct date, y'all. Sorry. UFC 272 headlined Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal in a welterweight bout. Not even a championship bout, a welterweight bout. That's a March 5th pay-per-view, so that's basically the St. Patrick's Day pay-per-view, basically. The last time Jorge Masvidal fought on a card in that time, I think, please don't quote me, but in the month of March, I'm pretty sure he knocked the shit out of Darren Poole in Liverpool, or in England, in the UK. So that's a good sign. But that's a huge, 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 huge fight. Probably top 5 biggest fights you can make in the UFC, in MMA. Outside of a Conor McGregor fight. Not including any Conor McGregor fight, because you could put him against 20 people and it'd be the biggest fight. Outside of Conor McGregor being involved, Jorge Masvidal versus Colby Covington is got to be top 5 most anticipated fights. And we're getting it as a headliner. This was the same card where Volkanovski was supposed to fight Max Holloway for the 3rd time. That pulled out. So I think they're headlining Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie for the featherweight championship, the next pay-per-view. And then it's going to be Aljamain Sterling versus Peter Yan for the undisputed bantamweight title in the co-main. Shit, that is such a killer main event. I can't wait. Other noticeable fights at UFC 272. Bryce Mitchell versus Edson Barboza is a hitter of a fight. And Kevin Holland versus Cowboy Alex Oliveira is another hitter of a fight. This is going to be a great card. This is going to be sneaky one of the best cards of the year. I wish they had Khamzat to fight on this card. It'd be like the card of like the fans' favorites. Khamzat, Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell, and Kevin Holland are like three of the fan favorite UFC fighters. But I digress. Covington versus Masvidal. Masvidal is 35-15. Covington is 16-3. Masvidal is coming off of a loss to Kamaru Usman. I think that's his last fight. And Covington is also coming off a loss to Kamaru Usman. They fought in November. Maybe December. Now, predictions for the fight, and we'll talk about the fight a little bit closer to when it comes by, but first initial reaction is there's no chance Masvidal wins this. There's no chance. Covington is a monster, as much as I don't like to admit it. As much as Covington sucks on the mic. Bad, very, very bad on the mic. Forcibly saying things and just sucks. As much as I don't want to say it, Covington probably beats the shit out of Masvidal, but it is going to be a killer pay-per-view. It's going to do over 1 million buys. It's going to be awesome. Where are they fighting? Where are they fighting? T-Mobile Arena. They're fighting in Vegas. God, that fight gets me nervous. That is a killer fight. Shout out to UFC for making that happen, because that is why I'm a UFC fan. They will make fights like that. No title on the line, nothing. Just two dudes who hate each other, who used to like each other, fighting. I can't wait for the build-up. I can't wait for the night. That's going to be a legendary pay-per-view night. I cannot wait. So that's breaking news here on the podcast. Well, at this point, when this gets released, it'll be a few hours old, but nonetheless. Bama versus Georgia last night. Yeah, so I'm not really a college football guy, but I like Alabama because my dad likes Alabama. And let me tell you something. I'm not like a huge college football guy, but from what I can tell, even though the statistics say otherwise, I think Bryce Young is probably the most overrated Heisman winner in recent memory. I think he was carried this year by a stellar receiving core, a stellar running game. And he is good, don't get me wrong, because his offensive line sucked for most of the year until the end of the season. But last night, the offensive line didn't do shit for him because he was scrambling every single offensive play. That's why they lost, is because of the offensive line, in my humble opinion. The receivers dropped just not the easiest passes, but passes that were perfectly placed, receivers dropped. And the defense played tremendously well, which is so unlike Alabama. Alabama their secondary usually cracks, and their secondary did end up cracking and let up a touchdown or two or a few big plays. But Alabama's defense last night was stellar, and their defense is the only reason they were in the game. I don't think Alabama even scored a touchdown. Well, they had 12 points, and I think it was 4 field goals, which is just embarrassing as Alabama. If I was Nick Saban, I would give every single person on the defense a rate. Well, you can't give them a raise, but I'd give them I don't know. What can you give a college player? I'd give them like a free meal. I'd buy them dinner. And then the offense, I'd make them I'd make them run. That's so bad that the offensive line and most of the receiving core played so bad last night. I actually feel bad for Bryce Young, because Bryce Young, I think, played very well. But shout out to Georgia. I haven't won it since the 80s. I think like 1980, was the last time they won it. They played Alabama, early in their season. They got smoked a few weeks ago. But I think they played them in the national championship game a few years ago, and they had a lead, but they gave up the lead, and Alabama ended up winning it. But regardless, if anyone's going to win it, I'm happy it's Georgia. They played really good. And until next year, until next college football season, Roll Tide and all that stuff. Oh, man. It's nice. Like, I'm happy I'm not doing a whiskey review this week because I can tell my taste isn't fully back because there's such a strong alcohol presence when I sip on this Weller 107. It tastes really good, but I can just tell. What we got here? Oh, some big news coming from myself and Paul at Bourbon with Friends. I just want to make sure I get this date right, so I'm going to Google it. So if you guys don't follow us on Instagram, make sure you do. At Bourbon with Friends on Instagram. We announced that we are officially going to be showing up and partnering with the New Orleans Bourbon Festival for the 2022 New Orleans Bourbon Festival, March 23rd through 26th in New Orleans, in Nolens. And I'm going to do my best to get down there and be at the event and really be able to meet a lot of these people in the whiskey world that I've been in contact with. And I don't think I've really met anyone in real life in the whiskey world that like I first met on Instagram. I don't think I've met anybody. I haven't even met Paul. So I'm really hoping I can get down there. The New Orleans Bourbon Festival is one of the largest bourbon festivals in the country. I mean, it's huge. It's very sought after. There's hundreds of there's dozens and dozens and dozens of brands there. Everybody from huge names to small craft distilleries, and it's just a great time to learn about the spirit, to taste different varietals of the spirit from different companies and different distilleries, and just to meet people within the business. So I am very, very honored to be able to be a small part of it along with Paul, and I'm looking forward to hopefully going down there. Again, I'm doing everything that I can to get down there. It's just your boy's 25 and doesn't have a lot of money, so it's gonna cost a pretty penny to get down there. But regardless, you guys, March 23rd through the 26th in Nolens. And it is benefiting a charity as well. I think it's called Kids Can NOLA. Yeah, Kids Can NOLA. And it's just designed to benefit the welfare of children. Educational, medicinal, general well-being. Kids Can NOLA is a great charity, and the New Orleans Bourbon Festival is benefiting Kids Can NOLA, so that's going to be awesome. And there's a lot of cool things happening. I think there's a cocktail contest with some high profile cocktail artists. There's some speakers. There's again a lot of huge brands being there. It's just gonna be a great time, and it's all in New Orleans. It's all in Nolens. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and that's gonna be a very, very fun night. I have wanted to start a rewatch of this particular show that I want to talk about here in a second for a long time, right? Ever since I saw Spider-Man No Way Home. And, before that, a few weeks before that, but I didn't have time. This week I did have time because the past 2 weeks I've had time. So I probably the best part of Spider-Man No Way Home to me was the unexpected yet expected inclusion of Charlie Cox's Daredevil or Matt Murdock into the MCU. I thought it was my favorite part of the movie, after a viewing. And I think it's because I've always loved Daredevil. And I can confirm that I really love Daredevil after rewatching the Netflix Daredevil series. I'm like halfway through season 3 at the point of this recording, but I'm going to go on a limb and say it's the best superhero show to ever be created. And I don't feel I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that's kind of well known. Charlie Cox's Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is perfect. I will not allow anyone to say otherwise. Kingpin, Wilson Fisk, in that show is a perfect representation. Perfect. I love Stick. Stick is great. Elektra, great and smoking hot. And even on a rewatch, I really like Karen's character, Karen Page. I don't know who plays her, but the first time watching, I did not like her character. The second time watching, I actually think she's really cool, and I love Foggy Nelson. Some of my favorite scenes on a rewatch have been the court scenes with Foggy Nelson killing it, giving like opening statements and so on and so forth as a lawyer. Really, really good stuff. And of course, the greatest well, no, I won't say this. One of the greatest MCU castings of all time, excluding Daredevil, because we were talking about him, John Bernthal's Punisher. Season 2 of Daredevil is one of the best seasons of television of all time. I will die on that hill. It's fantastic. And the fact that John Bernthal doesn't have like an Emmy or something from either Daredevil or his Punisher series baffles my mind, because he is not only like a hard-nosed guy, but he's such a good freaking actor. And the way he acts is perfect for the Punisher character, Frank Castle. So I'm excited to finish that, and I'm excited for wherever Daredevil and hopefully Punisher show up in the MCU, because, I mean, it is one of the best shows out there. And again, I don't even think it's particularly close. Also, the Book of Boba Fett, Episode 2. I don't like how these shows get released on Wednesday now, because I released my podcast on Wednesday, so I'm always a week behind. But Episode 2 was fantastic of the Book of Boba Fett. It's turning into The Mandalorian, basically. And I'm not mad at it. Every single week is kind of like a little side mission that slowly builds up into the main mission. And I like that, because every single week you feel a sense of completeness. And I just think that's important for the casuals that just want to be satisfied every single week. And those that even are a little bit into Star Wars, like myself and, you know, a lot of these people listening, they can appreciate the little Easter eggs and the slow buildup that you can tell is happening within the show. I'm a big fan of the Book of Boba Fett. I'm a big fan of the guy who plays Boba Fett. I think he does a great job, and I'm really excited to see what's the guy's name? Black Chrysanthemum, the black Wookiee that showed up. Looked terrifying, by the way. Like, doesn't look like Chewbacca. Maybe it's because he's black and his eyes stand out a little bit more, but was very, very, like, almost scary to look at. I remember looking at him, I was like, he looks freaky. Almost like you can tell it's a guy in a costume, but like the costume is really good, but you can just tell it's a costume. I don't know. I don't. That's a dumb way to put it, but he's a Wookiee bounty hunter essentially, from this quick little Google blurb, but crazy, and then to see the Hutts back. I know it's not Jabba the Hutt. Jabba is obviously dead, but I think it's his cousins or something, or his nephew and niece, or they're Hutts. And to see them paraded through the streets, you know, live action and everything is kind of cool. Because the last time we saw Jabba the Hutt, it was in the 70s, and the CGI wasn't the best. So that was, or no, was Jabba the Hutt in the prequels? He might have been in the prequels, actually. I'm not positive, but maybe he wasn't. No, he wasn't. So I'm a big fan of that show, and I'm excited to see where they go with that today, when I watch it later today, even though it's technically tomorrow when I record this. What else do we got here on the COVID Chronicles Part 2 rundown? I wrote down most anticipated movies of 2022, and I didn't write down any of mine. I'm upset because John Wick was supposed to be released this year, and they're moving it to 2023. I was sad when I read that, because John Wick, that's John Wick 4. Did I just say John Wick 2? John Wick 4. John Wick 4 was probably my most anticipated movie of the year. Probably not. I'm sure the Batman is actually, like, in my heart of hearts. But John Wick is my favorite movie franchise right now. And to see a fourth movie, so I was gearing myself up for that, for a huge May. May was supposed to be John Wick 4, Doctor Strange, and Top Gun Maverick. And that was like bang, 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 like 3 huge movies. Would have been awesome. Regardless, though, there's still a lot of good movies coming out, namely Batman, namely Doctor Strange, Thor, Black Panther, Black Adam. What else is coming out this year? There's one more big one that's coming out. I can't remember. Probably the Batman for me. And if you think Robert Pattinson's going to be a bad Batman, I don't trust you as a person. I think I've said it before on the podcast. If you want to see Robert Pattinson perform, watch The Lighthouse. And even better, our boy Flo Dafoe, a.k.a. Willem Dafoe, is also in that movie and kills it. It's the weirdest movie of all time. It's so strange, but it's so good. The acting in it is so good, and I recommend it to everyone who is like, hey, Robert Pattinson's not going to be a good Batman because he's in Twilight and he's Edward and blah, 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 blah. Like, bro, go watch there's several Robert Pattinson movies you could watch, but go watch the Lighthouse. Because that shit's crazy. That's a crazy movie. Talk about, like, freaky. Like, Willem Dafoe's freaky looking anyways, but... And speaking about Batman, I mean, that should have been Batman and the Joker right there. It really should have. Willem Dafoe should play the Joker. He needs to play the Joker at some point. Even if it's just for, like, a fan film. Please, Willem Dafoe, play the Joker. Please, please, please play the Joker. You need to. You're perfect. You already have... the face for it and the smile for it and the teeth for it. Just play it. You're one of the best working actors alive. Joaquin Phoenix did a fantastic job, and I would never trade that performance in, but Willem Dafoe, you would do just as good. You would do just as good. Just play the part. Please. Yeah, you guys, it's going to be a short episode. Over on Bourbon with Friends, we had our Penelope Bourbon interview drop. And I was thinking about drinking some Penelope today during the show, but I didn't want to drink a bourbon that I haven't reviewed yet. So go over to Bourbon with Friends, check out our interview with Danny and Mike over there, the two owners of Penelope Bourbon. 2 fantastic guys, let me tell you. I mean, those guys, that was such a fun interview to record. And they have a good juice. I've only tried the Toasted series. I haven't tried any other one, but the Toasted series is great. It's really grown on me. At first, I didn't like it, and I told them this on the show. I didn't like it, and it grew on me. And hearing their passion for whiskey and everything, I always support people who are passionate about something. That's why I support Rye 3 whiskey so hard with Karthik and Matt. Same thing with the guys over at Penelope. But go listen over there. We just released that episode Monday, and it's a great episode. And we're starting our Bourbon Across America series this week, and that's going to be fun as well. We're talking to a lot of different, just people, whether they're like Instagram influencers or whiskey heads or just normal people. Like, they're all normal people, but like just people without a huge online presence. Like, they're just talking whiskey with people who are passionate about whiskey is the best thing in the world. And I'm really enjoying what we're doing on that Bourbon Across America, and I'm proud of it. So we highlighted the New Orleans Bourbon Festival. You know what, you guys? I don't have a So Foreign segment this week because I just couldn't find something that lived up to the expectations. But we will do a So Foreign segment again, even if it's in a review episode. I don't care. So Foreign needs to come back. I've never laughed as hard as I laughed during that podcast. And the only reason I didn't laugh more is because I was coughing. So we do have some UFC fights on this weekend. First UFC fights of 2022. Main event, Giga, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. He's a top tier featherweight. Is fighting Boston's own, New England Cartel's own, Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, just his most recent fight, I want to say he got beat up by Max Holloway. Pretty sure that's his most recent fight. Let me see here. He's from Massachusetts. And he's honestly one of my favorite fighters. He's definitely like in the top 20 for me, if I had to give one. But yeah, he had a pretty crazy run. He beat Ricardo Lamas, then he barely lost to Zabit. Then he beat Jeremy Stephens and Dan 50K Ige, and then lost to Max Holloway. But he brutally knocked out Jeremy Stephens, which was awesome. He is, what's his record? 22-5. He's got a lot of fights. And I saw him kill Shane Burgos live. He killed Shane Burgos. That was at UFC 220 in Boston, Massachusetts in January 2018. Almost 4 years ago. Holy shit. So long ago. Wow, that just hit me. You guys are watching this or listening to this live. That just hit me that I went to that UFC event 4 years ago. God, Jesus. Wow. I had COVID during that too. I think I've told the story on the podcast. I had COVID during that. I was sick as hell. But anyways, not to get too much off topic. Yeah, I'm taking Calvin Kattar in the main event this weekend. I think that I just don't know much about this other guy, Giga. I know he's very good. I know he's ranked pretty high in the division. There's something about a New England boy. You know what I'm saying? Now, the fighters that come from this way are pretty tough. And Calvin Kattar's among the best that are coming out of New England right now. So I can't see him losing 2 in a row. I know he has in the past, but I just can't see him losing 2 fights in a row. I mean, it really is a crisp striker. I don't know how he is on the ground, but he is very crisp in his combinations. That's the one thing about Calvin Kattar that I like. He's not afraid to throw 2 to 3 punch combinations at a time, but they're all power shots. It's not like a random, maybe like a wrestler's combination where they're kind of just running forward, hoping for the takedown. These are 1-2 with a left hook or double jab into right overhand, or like 1-2 into an uppercut, something like that. Calvin Kattar has power behind every single punch, and he knocked Max Holloway a few times. He clipped him, but Max Holloway is Max Holloway. So I'm going to take Calvin Kattar in the main event. There's not really any other fights worth mentioning on the card that I can see. The Vanilla Gorilla, Chase Sherman's fighting. Always fun to watch him fight. Caitlin Chikugan is fighting. It's nothing too special. It's not like it's anything special. And then I think the following weekend we have Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane. So that's going to be, and then Brandon Moreno versus Figueiredo 3. Otherwise, a pretty lackluster card, but those are 2 awesome fights. So we'll talk about that next week. But that's my predictions for the UFC card this week. And that's it. I think we got Book of Boba Fett coming out today. The Peacemaker series, I think, comes out today as well. So I'll be checking that out. We'll talk about that next week. But that's really all I got this week, you guys. It's a kind of a short episode. We've been doing hour-long episodes recently, but it's been a tough week for me with like working from home a lot and doing a lot of podcasting, and this is just one of those weeks where it's like, I want to sit down, I want to enjoy this whiskey a little bit, I want to get to bed early tonight and get ready for the rest of the week now that I'm back in office. So it's like, that's what we're gonna do. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast this week. Thank you for tuning in. If you're a fan of the show, make sure you're subscribed on all platforms. Apple Podcasts and Spotify are the 2 biggest, but I'm everywhere. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, liking and commenting on the videos over there. And then make sure you're following me on all of my social medias. I got Who Gives a Dram on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Bourbon with Friends on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on Twitter as well, but don't really tweet a whole lot. Make sure you're subscribed to Bourbon with Friends. Make sure you're subscribed on all platforms to my other podcast over there as well. And yeah, keep on hitting me up in the DMs. I love to hear from y'all, and I'm excited for the year to come. It's a lot of big things. So, all right, it's a short one this week, but I'm gonna let Nick Bossy play me out. Not Pretty New Diamond. What Happened to Country? Nick Bossy's playing me out. What Happened to Country? YouTube, stop copyright claiming me on this because I have Nick's permission to use his music, and I thought we went through with this last year. This is my 60th video on YouTube. Stop copyrighting it. But regardless, you guys, thank you, and always remember, whiskey's the water of life. So let's start living.
My hands are tired of paying my bills, staring at a bottle, I'm aiming to kill. The weeks passing by and the seasons keep changing. I'm playing my song, trying to make me a name. People say as they walk out the bar, the kid's gone places, maybe even a star. They don't play country down in Nashville today, just the same chord progression with nothing to say. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. They use auto-tune now down on Music Row, 'cause true country died there a long time ago. No, they don't play Waylon on the boulevard, but they'll do anything to be rock stars. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. I do believe there is hope for us yet, 'cause there's millions of people who cannot forget the way Johnny Cash brought a tear to their eyes, or how Marty Robbins painted Texas skies. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. A grown man cry. A grown man cry. I won't let country die.